many reject formal employment due to high tax on personal income. Electoral Commission working with stakeholders to prepare for general elections. And Prime Minister O'Neill welcomes Australia's opposition leader.
This is National MTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening and welcome to Monday's news. It's good to have your company again. Well, Papua New Guinea's heavy reliance on income from personal income tax has been identified as a reason why many do not enter formal employment. This is one of a key number of findings from a report into the country's taxation regime compiled by the PNG Taxation Review Committee. The committee, led by Sir Nagara Bogan, recently presented its final report to Treasurer Patrick Pruich.
When providing an overview of the findings of the Tax Review Committee, Chairman Sir Nagara Bogan explained the need for the country's taxation regime to be amended to better suit the current economic climate.
We told the Minister we're not here to be politically correct. It's only by looking at both the negatives and the positive that you're able to make an informed decision, and that will plan the crucible for change and transformation.
The findings and recommendations of the Tax Review Committee were completed and presented to Treasury Minister Patrick Pruich recently.
So its reliance on income tax is both personal income tax and corporate income tax that accounts for about 34% of the government revenue. So the committee in its findings has recommended that PNG change the tax mix and shift it away from relying heavily on personal income tax and corporate taxes to a more broad-based consumption taxes, as well as broadening the economic base.
In light of the heavy reliance on personal income tax, the committee has recommended that the following be done: raising the tax-free threshold from the current level of 10,000 kina to 15,000 kina and gradually 20,000 kina. This is to remove the large numbers of low-paid employees from the formal sector from the tax system. The committee has also recommended that the marginal tax rate of 22% be reduced to 20% and the current tax rate of 30% charged on employees earning between 18,001 kina and 33,000 kina annually be removed. This, according to the committee, will provide an incentive for people to seek formal employment and also seek better paying jobs. But also equally important is that salary and wage earners will not be paying too much tax. While the reduction in personal income tax may be welcome news for many in the formal employment sector, it is important to note that revenue from other taxation components may be increased to ensure that government revenues remain largely unaffected. One such component is the Goods and Services Tax, or GST, with the committee recommending for GST rates to increase from 10% to 15%, a recommendation that will no doubt receive negative responses from members of the public, especially from those in rural areas and those within the informal sector. However, it remains to be seen if the government implements or tries to implement the committee's recommendations, or at least some parts of the recommendations, when it hands down the 2016 national budget this week. Merabatulo, National MTV News.
The Electoral Commission and Provincial administrators will now partner to plan and conduct the 2017 national election. They signed a memorandum of agreement today with the Momase region. Come 2016, it will be a year of preparation. MTV's Vasinatayama reports.
The MOA signing for Momase region consisted of East and West Sepik and Madang provinces. These will guide the Electoral Commission and provincial administrators to understand and know their roles and responsibilities in 2017. Some of the key activities stated in the MOA are Electoral Commission's improvement program, rollout maintenance and awareness and training.
The MOA is mainly to guide us, for us to have an understanding or some form of collaboration with the provincial administrations. As you all know, Electoral Commission don't have the manpower to conduct elections, and over the years we rely on the provincial administrations without any clear guidelines.
The Electoral Commission has signed agreements with Jiwaka, Manus, Central, Milimbay and West New Britain provinces. Several workshops have already been conducted to outline the roles and responsibilities. The Momase provincial administrators see this as a shared responsibility. According to Madang Provincial Administrator Daniel Aloy, Madang has a bad history and hopes to deliver a quiet and safer election in 2017.
Madang province, you would know very well that over the past election years we've been on the lamp, what do you call it, hotspot spotlight for a while.
Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission is prepared and is ready to roll out activities in the provinces, but this will depend on the 2016 budget. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission is looking forward to a hectic year of election preparations next year. According to Deputy Commissioner John Calamoro, the Commission has not been receiving the support it needs for key preparations and has now proposed a huge budget to ensure all key activities are funded prior to the 2017 national elections.
And I've just said it's in excess of 170 million.
John Calamoro said they will need a budget of over 170 million kina to ensure a smooth 2017 national elections. The four main activities that need to happen are the reactivation of provincial election steering committees, the appointment of returning officers, updating the common roll, and the reviewing of electoral boundaries.
We have submitted a big budget because over the last 3 years we have not had any budgetary support from the government. So we are now lumping everything into years 2016 to prepare for the elections across the country.
The biggest slice of the budget for next year will be going towards updating the common roll. But before this can happen, they need to appoint returning officers.
So we need the returning officers to start the process of the roll update. So we need them like in January, and we need the funding likewise at that point of time to start the roll program right across the country.
Another matter that has been neglected over the years that needs urgent attention now is the review of electoral boundaries, which have not been given any funding since 2013.
We haven't had any funding since we started requesting the support to start the review from 2013, 14, 15. This year it hasn't come about. So hopefully we'll get some money 2016 to do a review.
Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
The whole of Madang is on the verge of hitting Category 5 in this drought spell. The extremely affected people are the Long Islanders, the Manam Islanders at the care centres and the Tep villages. Madang's Provincial Disaster Office says it is running out of funds to sustain everyone simultaneously. MTV's Rachel Shise reports from Madang.
The Madang Provincial Disaster Office, in attempting to cater for drought victims, are going through a phase where they will have to step in for almost everyone, given the continuous drought effects, and that is impossible. This is the 6th going 7th month of no rain, and most places are heading for the worst.
Most of the communities already have been affected. It's 85% the population of Madang is affected.
Long Island, one of the three extremes, has received its second batch of relief, with one more to go. The second batch saw 588 bags of 10 kilograms rice and flour, with 588 2 liters cooking oil.
Long Island is one of the three extremes, which were categorized as Category 5. So I managed to ask for assistance, and the National Disaster Center has already released the amount of 191,400, and that's the money that I'm using now to purchase the food relief supplies to the island.
As for the Manam Islanders at the care centers, the office says it is difficult at the moment to say if they can be sustained for a month, but say additional supplies will be delivered this week. Also in Category 5 is the Tepte villages, located right on the mountain tops, covered by frost like the highlands region. They need urgent help, but geographically it will cost around 1.5 million kina to airlift relief supplies to them.
Teptep is it's really isolated. It's on the hilltop. All the things have been destroyed. The food gardens have been destroyed by the frost, and they are having a hard time at the moment. But as I've already stated, it depends upon the availability of the fund that I have.
The disaster office says its biggest problem is accessing funds and is now appealing to the national and the provincial governments to look at this seriously. The office is also calling on the districts to chip in from their DSIP funds, saying that if 1 or 2 million kina can be reached, that will be sufficient enough to get something to most people.
With the DSIP that is existing now, if there is money within the district level, they need to they just have to chip in. There's no way out. There's no option. They will have to chip in so that we can, the office can coordinate to supply relief supplies to the different districts.
It's been 6 months since this drought, and with this being the second last month of the year, a lot is in question, especially if the drought continues into the next year, as predicted by the National Weather Office. Richard Shise, National MTV News, Madang.
In the news ahead, Australia's opposition leader on a 2-day visit, and Don Pollier says the opposition will find an alternative venue to hold a forum. We'll bring you those stories and more after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to National MTV News. Australia's leader of opposition, Bill Shorten, was welcomed in Port Moresby today by Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. Mr. Shorten and the Australian parliamentary delegation are on a 2-day visit to discuss issues of mutual interest. In his welcome remarks, Mr. O'Neill said one of the highlights of the PNG-Australia relationship was the completion of the regional resettlement arrangements in Manus.
Prime Minister O'Neill congratulated Bill Shorten as Australia's leader of opposition and respective Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and Shadow Minister for Immigration. On diplomatic and bilateral relations, Prime Minister O'Neill said with the completion of the regional resettlement arrangement, both PNG and Australia have managed to maintain their commitments. On other areas of cooperation, the new partnership arrangement on Australian aid will see the support aligned to PNG's development priorities, including redirection of 50% of the aid to infrastructure by 2017. On the issue of visa on arrival, Mr. O'Neill informed that Australia has agreed to conduct a joint study by a joint agency panel on the Trans-Tasmania travel arrangement it has with New Zealand to consider similar arrangements on travel access by citizens of both countries. On the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC 2018, Mr. O'Neill said PNG was grateful that both countries are building joint activities in facilitating the event, including in the area of security. Deli Waigeno, National MTV News.
Well, the opposition is concerned with the manner in which it claims freedom of expression continues to be suppressed in Papua New Guinea. Their concern comes after police banned them from staging a public forum. They have discussed with the Police Commissioner Gary Bucky to find alternative venues to hold the forum.
The opposition's attempt to host a public forum was banned by the Police Commissioner today. In response, opposition leader Don Pollier summoned the Police Commissioner Gary Bucky to his office to clarify the issue. Pollier called on the police not to continue suppressing freedom of expression.
That's why the opposition will not tire, will not waver in our pursuit to making sure that human rights are upheld, our people's right to expression of themselves is not marginalized or suppressed in any form or in any way. That's why the opposition did organize a formal forum at the Jack Piddick Park to ensuring every Papua New Guinean comes in to share their views and express themselves.
He says they have come to a mutual understanding on the functions and duties of the police as outlined in the Constitution. The opposition understands the reasons of the ban and will work with the police coordinate future forums.
A firm belief that we cannot be told as to how to do our job or to freely engage in open dialogue and free expression with our people on issues that affect us. And these are two definitive functions that exist between us, the leaders of parliament, and the police force have been well discussed in our meeting, as understood.
Police Commissioner Gary Bucky was concerned unrest will eventuate should the forum be allowed to take place in public. He says there is limited manpower to maintain crowd control and that the forum is best held in a confined venue.
In an open area like Jack Piddick Park, you're inviting all kinds of people to go and sit down and listen. And the chances, 99% out of 100, there will be something else happening in there.
The forum was aimed at informing the public on the policies of the opposition as the alternative government, also to discuss other issues such as the budget and the drought. The forum has now been postponed to a later date. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
The University of Papua New Guinea has clarified that its forum square is not a place for public forums as alluded to by Police Commissioner Gary Bucky yesterday. In a letter addressed to the Police Commissioner today, UPNG Vice-Chancellor Professor Albert Melam stressed that the UPNG Forum Square is not open to the general public. Professor Melam said all school facilities inside the campus are for the sole use of students alone. He said if other activities are to be held there in relation to school matters, they will also be considered and a collective decision made. He said the letter was meant to correct the misconception that the Police Commissioner referred to when calling on the opposition to find an alternative venue for their public gathering. Soho Health Centre in the Northern Province will be upgraded to a district hospital for the Soho district. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill was in Soho to do the groundbreaking for construction to begin. A cheque of 1.5 million kina was presented to the member for Soho, Delilah Gore, to facilitate the development process.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill flew into Soho Health Centre to a rousing traditional welcome last Saturday. He was accompanied by Forestry Minister Douglas Tomariesa, Fisheries Minister Mao Zeming and Public Service Minister Dr. Puka Temu. Customary formalities were accorded to him on arrival, bestowing him with the title of Chief. The groundbreaking will begin construction work for the Soho Health Centre. O'Neill says the government has spent over 2 billion kina on free health care in the last 3 years.
Our government is doing some things that are changing Papua New Guinea. We are changing the way we educate our children. We are changing the way we deliver medical services to our people. We are changing the infrastructure and roads and bridges and airports all throughout the country. We are changing the way we make our communities safer.
Soho Health Centre serves a population of 29,000 people in the Higaturu local level government. The health centre has received little attention over the past 40 years, but is now poised for change.
Way back in 40 years ago, it was really terrible state. But because we have some people like Delilah Gore, who is our member, she initiated this project to come up where we will have a district here in Soho, and I'm very happy about it.
A local nurse hopes the change will also improve patient care.
Mi wan pla walkman la housing tu na mire trends na mire di lopinis na staff, Mr. Flori trends list. Na Mr. Restreto sem before housing inosem. Mi pla painihan mi pla walkman la housing la day night mi pla using hurricane lem na mi pla lukoti musik man na gi marasin na write report na all this la.
Soho member Delilah Gore promised that the aging workforce at Soho Health Centre will be appropriately compensated for their service. Also, new staff will be recruited in for replacement. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
Business houses in the northern province are on high alert following an armed robbery on one of the supermarkets a week ago. The Papindo supermarket was robbed of a substantial amount of money on Sunday, the 25th of October, by thugs who travelled in from Leh on an outboard motor. This incident has rattled the business community, who called on police to step up their operations. There was no police presence at the time of the robbery. Investigation into the robbery has commenced. However, the Provincial Police Commander, Jacob Singura, is yet to release further details. A new hotel has opened in Mount Hagen. McRoyal Hotel is Mount Hagen's new luxury hotel built by a family serious about contributing to the country's tourism sector. The new hotel comes as the country faces tough times ahead when the world's oil, gas and mineral prices fluctuate and more pressure is put on building a more sustainable economy in the tourism and agricultural sectors. National Capital District Governor Paus Parker opened the hotel on Saturday. MTV's Bethany Harriman reports from Mount Hagen.
The third largest economic centre, the agricultural hub and the biggest city in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen continues to contribute immensely to the tourism sector. In the last 5 years, that sector has been marred by law and order problems that plague the city. But there is still development in the sustainable industry. On Saturday, NCD Governor Paus Parker opened a new luxury hotel.
Gas and oil and the minerals, they'll run out tomorrow. And they are subjected to all the international fluctuation. You can see it now. When the world economy is grinding down, it affects our income. And so we need to broaden the economic base of our country, diversify it. And tourism hospitality is there. It's got so much potential, but we are not investing in it. So.
The new hotel gives more possibilities for growth and development in the Western Highlands tourism sector. The province doesn't have the mines, oil or gas, but it has fertile land to supply fresh produce for any tourist-filled restaurants. McRoyal's owner, Lexon Wantaki, speaks of a joint effort by Western Highlands businessmen to build a sustainable sector that can provide jobs and money for the economy.
We want to create and establish something that we can benefit, our kids can benefit on the personal level, but on the bigger level picture, the country can benefit, and there's money coming into the province, there's money coming into the country. We attract tourists. Only quality can attract tourists.
Lexon Wantaki has engaged close friend and owner of Jiwaka Mission Resort, Andrew Tans, to run the hotel. Tans has over 10 years of experience in the hotel business.
And business, you only make profit. I always believe in people. To make profit, you need to have good, multi-skilled people at the back of you, serving your customers best.
Papua New Guinea's economy is based on the non-renewable sector. Our oil, gas and mineral mines provide the revenue stream for the government to carry out service delivery. Now, as world commodity prices slump, it's affecting how much we sell our oil and gas and minerals to the world. Now, the government and entrepreneurs have the challenge of looking towards more sustainable sectors such as the tourism sector and agriculture. What's happening in Hagen is a snapshot of the tourism hospitality development happening in the Western Highlands. It's a more sustainable sector that will provide employment and an alternative revenue stream for the government to use to deliver services. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
And now let's take a look at the finance news. The Kina closed 15 points lower at $0.3405 in the interbank market today. And at Bank South Pacific, our Kina was trading at $0.3330, $0.4635 Australian dollars, $0.2986 euro, and 39.8 Japanese yen. Taking a look at commodity prices at New York close, gold and copper closed lower, while coffee and cocoa closed the day higher. Palm oil and copper closed lower, while crude oil closed the day higher. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 92 points lower, the ASX closed at 28 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 35 points higher. Well, prominent woman leader Janet Sape wins Westpac's prestigious award. That story and more when we return. Stay tuned. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. The 2015 Westpac Outstanding Women Awards was a success as the momentous proceedings took place last Friday evening. Women from different walks of life and ages were recognized, with businesswoman and founder of Women in Business, Janet Sape, taking out the coveted overall Westpac Outstanding Women Award.
It was a night to remember as a predominantly female crowd filled the Gateway Hotel in Port Moresby to celebrate the intellect, the beauty and the power of women in PNG's modern society. The red color of Westpac Bank lit up the event as laughter filled the air. Unorthodox categories like the More Printing Sports Awards honored long-forgotten iconic women in sports, with veteran netballer Veitu Diro taking home the prize. The contributions and sacrifices of the nominees were applauded, with PwC Private Sector Award winner and overall WOW winner Janet Sape thanking Westpac for recognizing the often forgotten women and joked about creating a partnership between Westpac and the Women's Microbank to enable financial literacy amongst women. The other winners of the night included Janet Sios taking home the Steamships Not-for-Profit Award, Joyce Kiage, who took home the SP Brewery Entrepreneur Award, Beverly Pambali Piawu with the Trukai Community Award, Michelle Boyama with the IBBM Young Achievers Award, and Dr. Evelyn Lavo with the Pacific Assurance Public Sector Award. Michelle Bird, National EMTV News.
A plan to resettle refugees in Papua New Guinea has received condemnation from Human Rights Commission President Gillian Triggs. Triggs says PNG lacks the capacity and basic infrastructure to meet the needs of asylum seekers. The PNG government, through its national refugee policy endorsed 2 weeks ago, plans to resettle refugees on Australia's offshore detention centre on Manus Island. Gillian Triggs criticised plans to resettle refugees in PNG, describing the country as struggling. Her criticism comes 2 weeks after the PNG government endorsed plans for refugee settlements in PNG, 3 years after reopening the Manus Processing and Detention Centre. Professor Triggs was concerned about the resettlement of gay refugees in PNG, where homosexuality is illegal, punishable by up to 14 years in prison. She also said the country was facing pressure to provide services to its own people, a statement shared by the public.
Now when you look at them, you may stop lane. Government is providing all service, that's all service. You know, go straight along all village level.
display big plus ting lo mi pla Papua New Guinea mi pla ting display mi pla mas walk money past them mi pla stop good past them okay mi pla kare mol narap la line lo narap la country camp da stop one time mi pla.
2 weeks ago, Immigration Minister Rembing Pato, in a 2-page press release, explained the national refugee policy for PNG, which also extends to refugees from Indonesia's Papua province of West Papua. It contained 5 key principles that form the basis of the policy, the highlight being point number 4, that says PNG embraces the skills and qualities of refugees, supports them to become self-sufficient, and offers them the opportunity to become citizens.
I think some of them have very good skills that they can contribute to the development of Papua New Guinea.
The government should do this. Find a way of fitting them in. They will feel like they are Papua New Guineans.
Despite the approval of the policy, both the PNG and Australian governments haven't actually outlined where and how many refugees would be resettled in Papua New Guinea. The question of what type of support they would receive also remains unanswered. But Human Rights Commission President Gillian Triggs says access to basic health services in PNG was lacking and high rates of violence would endanger asylum seekers. Well, tragedy struck over the weekend when a Russian passenger jet seemingly fell apart in mid-air on its way home from Egypt. All 224 on board, including 17 children, were killed. Yesterday, aerial footage of the crash site was released showing blackened wreckage from the plane scattered across a crash site of over 20 square kilometers. Alexander Naredko, head of Russia's aviation agency, said yesterday that the vast expanse of the wreckage indicate that the plane broke in the air at a great altitude. Naredko said plane crash sites are usually 8 kilometers by 4 kilometers wide. The plane, carrying mostly holidaymakers, crashed into a mountainous area of central Sinai shortly after going off the radar nearing cruising altitude. At least 163 bodies have been recovered so far. On the same note, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has extended condolences to the Russian government following the tragic death of 224 people in an air crash in Egypt. Mr. O'Neill said, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the men, women and children who were killed." He said there must be answers for the deaths of the people in the crash and a full investigation is anticipated for that. The Prime Minister says he will personally convey PNG's condolences when he meets with President Vladimir Putin at the APEC Leaders Summit in 2 weeks. Well, that wraps up our news segment tonight, but stay tuned. We have True Guy Sports. That's coming up next. We'll give you a preview of the Melbourne Cup and New Zealand's dreams shattered in soccer. Stay with us.
True Guy Sports.
Thanks for joining me with True Guy Sports. Well, Australia's prestigious horse racing event, the Melbourne Cup, will kick off tomorrow at 3 p.m. 24 horses will race 3,200 metres to claim the grand prize of around 6 million Australian dollars. That's around 12 million kina. Last year, Protectionist became the first German-born and trained horse to win the Cup with English jockey Ryan Moore. Cup favourites for this year include Japanese horse Fame Game, followed by Trip to Paris, Max Dynamite and Preferment, to name a few. Another favourite is New Zealand horse Who Shot the Barman, which came in third in last year's Cup. Well, New Zealand's football's bid to have their Pacific Games disqualification overturned has been dismissed by the Oceania Football Confederation's Appeal Committee. Their hopes of having their under-23 representative team in the Rio Olympics is now shattered. EMTV's Elijah Levitt has more.
New Zealand ran foul of Oceania authorities when they fielded South African-born defender Declan Wynne at the Pacific Games. They were thrown out of the tournament after winning the semi-final against Vanuatu, who then successfully protested Wynne's involvement in the match. The appeal also argued that the Pacific Games Council, who were running the qualifiers, had confirmed the squad's eligibility in advance to the tournament. New Zealand football had been informed of the appeal's failure by OFC last week. They will now consider its options, including a possible appeal to the sport's highest councillor. Elijah Levitt, National EMTV Sports.
Well, True Guy Sports continues after this break. Stay with us.
True Guy Sports.
Good to have you back with True Guy Sports. Over to rugby now. And given the success of the Turagus at the Singapore Sevens, the concept of a feeder team is a positive move for Rugby Sevens in Papua New Guinea. With a fruitful bunch of young and senior talent, the Turagus will return with not only the SCC Sevens played, but a handful of potential pukpuks in representative duties. MTV's Lorraine Genia reports.
The Taragos went on to winning the SEC International Rugby Sevens plate last night after defeating the Swedish Vikings 36-0, the Lanka Lions 45-7 in the semi-finals, and thrashing the Associate General Singapore Cricket Club's rugby team 26-5. The tournament not only featured talent selected straight out of the National Provincial Sevens Championships, but also the return of Stanis Susuve, Manu Gais and Billy Toria.
Now winning second to the Cup, the team has definitely pulled in some positive results and demonstrated the value in selecting and developing young and fresh talent all throughout Papua New Guinea. But where to from now? Douglas Gais will be preparing for the final selection of a national team to the Wellington Sevens qualifiers later on this month.
The Wellington Sevens qualifiers will be held in Auckland, and the team is expected to see the return of Seven stars in the likes of Wesley and Max Varley, Arthur Clement and Henry Kalua. In the meantime, centres throughout the country will continue to host Sevens tournaments, with the Kalibobo Sevens next in line. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
Well, Jared Haynes' NFL dream has taken a blow after the former NRL star was cut from the San Francisco 49ers roster. His position on the team was taken by rival running back Kendall Gaskins. Haynes' future in the NRL will be determined, rather the NFL will be determined come tomorrow, when it will be announced if he will stay with the 49ers on the practice squad or if he gets signed by another team.
Following a stellar pre-season, the 27-year-old has struggled since the official season began. However, many blame the club for not providing him enough opportunity.
Rugby player for the Niners, diving and catching and fumbling. Oh.
And being dropped from the San Francisco 49ers squad has come as a surprise to all. In a statement released by the 49ers, they promoted Kendall Gaskins, and in order to make room on the team, a decision was made to waive Jared Haynes. In his transition to the NFL, the preseason saw him draw attention and his future in the code looked promising. After the announcement of being cut loose, rival clubs have been given a set period of time to be able to pick him up. Haynes' Australian agent says the former NRL star is committed to the NFL and has no plans on returning to rugby league following the setback. Dion Kombang, National EMTV Sports.
Well, that report from Dion Kombang wraps up our True Guy Sports segment tonight. The weather details after this break. Stay with us.
True Guy Sports. True Guy Sports.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In southern region, a chance of light showers expected in the nation's capital. Light thundery storms expected in Alotau. Brief showers in Daru, Kerema and Popondetta. In the Momase region, mostly fine, expected in Vanimore. Brief showers expected in Wewak, some showers for Madang, and light showers in Ley City. In the New Guinea Islands, light thundery showers anticipated in Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe, while Loringa to look forward to brief showers and Buka, some light showers. In the Highlands region, a chance of light showers developing in Mount Hagen. Cloudy weather for Goroka, Kundiawa and Wabeg, while Mendi to look forward to light showers. Our forecast for small ships, but first there is a strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait, Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerema, Yule Island to Hood Point and all Milne Bay Islands. There is a warning that strong southeast winds of 25 to 34 knots are expected to persist for the next 24 hours, causing rough seas. A note to all small crafts and boats, they are advised to take necessary precautions before going out to seas. Now let's look at waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait, Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerema, Yule Island to Hood Point, to Samurai Island, seas of 2 meters to 3 meters, waters of Samurai Island to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, including Vitia Strait, Siasi Island, Tummy Island, Long Island, with waters of Madang to Bogia, Wewak Saitape, Vanimo all the way to the northern PNG Indonesian border, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and the waters of New Ireland to New Britain and Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And lastly, waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, seas of 2 meters to 2.5 meters. And now to ocean forecasts for PNG areas. Coral Sea sees rather rough with easterly winds at 20 to 25 knots. Solomon Sea sees moderate to rather rough with east to southeast winds at 15 to 25 knots. Bismarck Sea sees slight to moderate with southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. And lastly, Pacific Ocean sees slight with northeast to northwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. Now we'll wrap things up with this story from Lae. A recent ethnic clash between two communities in Lae has prompted leaders from the Morabit provincial government to call for peace negotiations to end the tension. The leaders and Lae police have issued stern warnings to troublemakers to stop fighting or face the consequences. This comes after more houses were torched on Saturday following a prolonged tension between Boundary Road and Sialum communities.
Provincial Administrator Patilius Gamato appeals to the two communities to stop fighting in order to allow peace negotiation to take place between the people and the concerned authority. The provincial leaders have also warned troublemakers to refrain from burning more houses, as police will arrest anyone who continues to cause disharmony in the community. On Saturday, more houses were torched to the ground following a tension that had dragged on since the Morabit show weekend. Those badly affected are women and children. Many of them are living in fear of their lives and are finding it very difficult to feed their family. Their husbands have fled after fearing from more retaliatory violence.
Na me come up the real victim bro, there's the issue, there's the situation now. Mama want them picking in life me hard. Me no sabe ba me sleep or ba me sit down or me get up na run.
Lae's Law and Order Committee Chairman Sam Hoyaya says most of the clashes in Lae are spurred by homebrew consumption in settlements in the city. The committee, meanwhile, have yet again proposed an eviction exercise on illegal settlements and repatriation of the settlers back to their own province.
So problem will get up and through long stem. So people committee people sit down and people become thinking also it must get eviction, it must come up.
A proposed eviction and repatriation exercise, meanwhile, carried out last year on illegal settlements around the city, have achieved poor results. In every settlement in Lae, there are people who know the troublemakers. And in terms of ethnic divisions, it hasn't been an easy task for the police to bring the people responsible to justice. With the strong cultural ties between the people in these settlements, handing over one of their own to the police may not be an easy decision to make. Mata Lewis, National EMTV News, Lae.
And recapping our top stories for tonight, many reject formal employment due to high tax on personal income. Also, Electoral Commission working with stakeholders to prepare for general elections. And Prime Minister Peter O'Neill welcomes Australian opposition leader. Well, that's been the news, sports and weather for tonight, the 2nd of November 2015. From the news crew, I'm Tokana Asavi Jr. You take care and stay happy. Good night.